Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake is all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion of her pride. Corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning from the rail yards of Chicago, Illinois, or somewhere close to that area. It is I, Uncle Warren. Did that work? Yeah, it did work. Yeah, it's me. Happy Friday to you. We're just 1 week away from our second Friday the 13th in a row. I know you're excited about it as much as I am. Yeah. Like every day has it been Friday the 13th. Good morning, CBC voter. Happy Friday at Extra Coffee. Ooh, extra coffee indeed. I usually have extra coffee. I drink this mountain of coffee, and then I don't drink any the rest of the day because this is enough. So good, so delicious. So yeah, we had a War in Iran show on Monday, basically getting you updated. We're going to update you some more a little bit later in the show. We've got some business here at home to attend to. Ding dong, the witch is gone, but they'll probably replace that bitch with somebody else. Is Kristi Noem ousted from Homeland Security post amid recent turmoil? Tisk, tisk, tisk. There she is. Kendall did not like what she had to say, I guess. Kristi Noem, the former South Dakota congresswoman and governor who has led President Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security in his second term, was ousted from her position yesterday. Trump announced on Truth Social that he will nominate Senator Markwayne Mullin, Republican out of Oklahoma, to replace Noem effective March 31st. The current secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. What kind of made up bullshit is that? We'll tell you about that coming up. Our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we're announcing Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. In her first official statement on X, the tweeters, following her departure, Noem thanked Trump for letting her be the best Nazi she could be. I'm sorry, for her upcoming appointment. Secretary Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth are incredible leaders, and I look forward to killing more people with them. Working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren in the thing in the Glaven. What's up, Chuck? Good to see you. Max, good to see you as well. Yeah, so she's out. I can't do that voice again. It hurts too much. The Western Hemisphere is absolutely critical for U.S. security. In this new role, I'll be able to build on the partnerships and national security expertise I forged over the last 13 months as Secretary of Homeland Security. We have made historic accomplishments at the DHS to make America safe again. Safe from whom? Not from you. We delivered the most secure border in American history. 3 million illegal aliens have left the U.S. Well, I'm sure most of them may be illegal. We have located 145,000 children. FEMA delivered disaster relief at a 100% faster rate. That's incorrect. We ushered in the golden age of travel. What's the golden age of travel? Did people flapping their arms fast and save the American taxpayer $13 billion and revitalize the U.S. Coast Guard? She mumbled. Global Solidarity. Hello. Good to see you. Yes, I know that voice is terrible. I'm sorry. We're not doing that anymore. But you get the gist of how annoying this woman is. Trump said Mullen has done a tremendous job in Congress and cited his resume as a former undefeated MMA fighter. Oh, there you go. There you go, because that's the qualifier for the Department of Homeland Security, is to make sure the octagon is secure first, right? As the only Native American in the Senate, is this like an Elizabeth Warren thing? Is he that kind of Native American? Mark Wayne is a fantastic advocate for our incredible tribal communities. Mark Wayne will work tirelessly to keep our borders secure, stop migrant crime, murderers, and other criminals from illegally entering our country, end the scourge of illegal drugs, and make America safe again, Trump wrote in the thingy. Mullen is the first Native American senator in decades, following Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell of Colorado. He appeared just as caught off guard by the announcement as the rest of Washington. After dashing to vote for DHS funding, which ultimately failed again, and then sneaking through the back of the Senate, he held court on the steps outside the upper chamber. When asked if he was headed to the White House to meet with Trump, he said he wasn't sure. "I think I need to talk to my wife first," Mullen said. Mullen currently does not serve on the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, the panel that will be responsible for confirming him, but he does have a strong relationship with Trump, cock firmly in cheek. That's why I asked if he was Elizabeth Warren Native American, get that sliver from like 200, 300, 400 years ago. What's up, Willie? Good to see you, my friend. Let's see. I got to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting the call today, but I am super excited, and I'm more excited about just getting ready to get started. Mullen jumbled his words. There's a lot of work we can do to get our Homeland Security working, working for the American people. You mean besides murdering them? Yeah, there's always options besides murder, I think. Noem will likely be at least temporarily replaced by Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar, a Navy veteran and former mayor of Los Alamitos, California, in the line of succession for the agency. Noem's tenure marked a distinct reversal of the open border policies permitted by predecessor Alejandro Mayorkas during the Biden administration. This is from Fox News, so if you hear that tinge of bias in there, you know what's up. But we'll still navigate these waters. And DHS has notched record drug interdictions totaling more than 500,000 pounds of illegal drugs in her first year. And she blowed up some boats, too. Did she blow up some boats that didn't have drugs in it? Her management of Trump's mass deportation agenda has also led to more than 2 million reported self-deportations in 2025 and about 670,000 removals of quote-unquote illegal immigrants, a figure supporters have hailed as the most successful immigration enforcement operation in history. Man, Fox loves to suck that dick. They really do. Her agency has also been unafraid to hit back at high-profile critics, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, Representative Eric Swalwell, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and 2026 midterm candidate David Trone of Maryland, who accuses DHS of executing people in the streets. Well, as he filmed a protest ad outside a Williamsport compound recently purchased for use as a detention facility. They do execute people in the streets. That is something we've got on video twice. We've got it. Such criticisms of her mass deportation operations, particularly in Minneapolis, appear to somewhat sour public sentiment. Yeah, murdering people in the streets tend to sour people, Fox. On the administration's handling of the immigration issue, as U.S. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, a DHS subordinate, was replaced in the Twin Cities by Border Czar Tom Homan amid the firestorm. Meanwhile, reports surfaced Thursday that Trump is furious with Noem over her performance in bicameral Judiciary Committee hearings this week, particularly over a contract for an advertisement that Senator John Kennedy, Republican out of Louisiana, and others grilled her on. She didn't mention the Dow? That's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to be like Barbie and mention the Dow Jones hitting 50,000. Trump reportedly took issue with her suggesting to Kennedy that he approved a taxpayer-funded ad subcontracted to a firm connected with her inner circle, according to National Review, which also reported that Mullen was being considered a top candidate for her replacement. A White House official confirmed to Fox News that Trump did not know about the ad and did not approve it, despite her claims to the contrary at the hearings. Uh-oh! Somebody in trouble? It was a combination of her many unfortunate leadership failures, from Minnesota to the ad campaign to the allegations of an affair, a source familiar with the situation told Fox News. When confronted by reporters on the Capitol steps, Mullen indicated he had only short notice of Trump's decision to pick him as Noem's successor. Yeah, I was in the shitter, and then all of a sudden I got a knock on the door and say, "Hey, you're the DHS chief now." Okay, can I pinch this one off? Sorry. Hey, Laine, good morning to you, dear. No, the president and I still have to communicate, so we'll talk about it moving forward, Mullen said. The president and I have already talked. We have to talk to the president and get on the same page. I'll talk to you all later. This doesn't sound like he's on any page. In Wednesday's House hearing, Noem was questioned by Representative Sidney Kamlager-Dove, a Democrat out of California, over rumors of an affair with DHS special government employee Corey Lewandowski, a top figure in Trump's 2016 campaign. A special government employee. Ooh, tell us more. Noem criticized Kamlager-Dove in response as her husband, insurance company owner and former South Dakota First Gentleman Brian Noem, sat just feet behind her. Kamlager-Dove asked Noem if at any time during her tenure she had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski, before slamming the longtime Trump aide as a failed campaign manager and someone lacking military experience. Hold on a second. Representative Jared Moskowitz, Democrat out of Florida, followed up pressing Noem on Lewandowski while wearing a Justice for Cricket pin, referencing the dog Noem once wrote she had to euthanize on her farm. Justice for Cricket. These people are so fucking stupid. I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up, Moskowitz said. Noem pushed back hard on both Democrats, saying what they were implying is offensive, and telling Chairman Jim Jordan out of Ohio that she was shocked that we're going down and peddling this tabloid garbage in this committee today. Well, garbage in, garbage out, right? Hey, what's up, Peace Dove? Good to see you. I guess if it goes to your credibility, whether, if you're saying you're Native American and you're really pulling the Elizabeth Warren and saying it for political reasons, that's probably why. The socialist liberal left, you go off and you attack conservative women and you say that we're either stupid or we're sluts. That's what you do. You're not the only ones who do that. And I will tell you, sir, I am neither of those. Noem fumed at Moskowitz. Through the recent turmoil, many Republicans remain highly complimentary of Noem's tenure. When Swalwell pressed her on the ad campaign and contract, Noem shot back that while the Alameda Democrat was focusing on photo ops and luxury jets, I'm focused on the fact that the Coast Guard might not get paid because your party is choosing not to fund them. Yeah. Okay, so she's out. Aw, single tier. Yes, I know. Single tier. I said single tier. What the shit is this? Nobody asked you for that. So what is this bullshit? This new, what is this? Well, we know about Noem's new Shield of the Americas role. So what's this bullshit? Hey, yikes, there's the devil. All right, so Trump said Thursday that DHS Secretary Noem would leave her role and be appointed as a special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Sounds like a tampon commercial. I'm not quite sure. Like a patriotic tampon thing. Bringing her tumultuous tenure atop DHS to an end. She faced scrutiny and intense questioning about the fatal shooting deaths of 2 American citizens by federal ICE agents earlier this year. More recently, she was met with skepticism from Senator John Kennedy at the Senate hearing, who argued that more than $200 million ad campaigns she oversaw and appeared in for DHS were primarily effective in your name recognition. Trump's Thursday announcement of her removal also comes as the country faces a partial government shutdown due to lawmakers' refusal to fund the department until agencies, including ICE and U.S. Border Patrol, get overhauled. So while the soon-to-be former secretary will no longer head up immigration and other national security agencies under DHS, her work for Shield of the Americas will hit on similar topics, including immigrants in the country illegally, transnational trafficking, and border crossings. Here's what we know about the role. The regional coalition of countries in Latin America will work together on ideology, willingly or not, and policy initiatives that help secure the Western Hemisphere, according to the White House. The Shield of the Americas will be guided in part by the president's foreign policy initiatives dubbed the I'm not making this up. The Donroe Doctrine. See, because the Monroe Doctrine, now it's the Donroe. What's up, Lance? Hang on a second. There we go. She can, DHS secretary, add that to her resume of reality TV roles. Exactly. The Donroe Doctrine, fashioned after the Monroe Doctrine, of course, the administration has described the doctrine as enlisting established friends in the Western Hemisphere to pursue U.S. aims and expanding ties by cultivating and strengthening new partners. Ooh. Since Trump returned to office last year, he directed the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which nobody calls it that. That's just some dumb shit. Announced plans to take back the Panama Canal, hadn't done that, and pushed efforts to acquire Greenland and make Canada the 51st state. Again, just talking out of his ass. None of that stuff's happening or is going to happen. A summit making the Shield of the Americas official is set to take place this weekend in Miami, and it may largely focus on counterterrorism measures in the region as a group of Latin American leaders assemble on American soil. So what countries will Noem work with in this new role? So Noem will work with foreign leaders in both North and South America. The Trump administration has maintained a heavy interest in connecting with Latin American leaders to combat human smuggling, drug trafficking, and undocumented immigration. 13 heads of Latin American countries are expected to be present at the Miami summit this weekend. Some notable some notable names, according to the White House, include Argentine President Javier Milei, Chilean President-elect Jose Antonio Cast, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele Ortez, the guy with the prison, and Honduran President Nasri Tito Asfura. So Mark Wayne Millen is expected to succeed Noem as DHS Secretary at the end of the month, but will need to be confirmed by the Senate. Pretty sure that'll happen. It's unclear the exact date that Noem will depart her role as Secretary. However, the president said additional details will be revealed at the Miami summit on Saturday, and this is her saying some bullshit and some other people saying some shit. So yeah, she's going to be the shield of the Americas. That's some wild shit. That sounds like, you know what? We got to save face. We're knocking you out of this high spot. We got to make it look like, you weren't quite right for the role, but you're not totally incompetent. So we're going to put you on the Shields of America bullshit. Sounds like it to me. I could be wrong. I don't think so. Only wish she's in a Mexican restaurant, maybe. Like, Necesito Agua. She probably knows that. What else we got here? We got more. Why are you being this way? And so whoever this cracker coming in thinking he's going to make some changes and do some stuff, they're still going to hate you, buddy. They're still going to hate you. Half of Americans back abolishing ICE amid Trump crackdown, poll finds. Half of Americans support the abolition of ICE, a new poll has found, as opposition to Donald Trump's aggressive federal immigration crackdown continues to grow. An analysis by YouGov revealed that exactly 50% of respondents strongly or somewhat want to see the agency dismantled, a 5% rise from a January poll taken between the deaths in Minnesota of U.S. citizen protesters Renee Good and Alex Preddy, murdered by immigration officers. Only 39% said they opposed abolishing ICE, probably most of those Democrats, so they can fundraise, kind of get those funds raised, baby. A significant drop from January when those for and against were evenly split at 45. The latest poll is the first time that the number of Americans calling for scrapping the agency, a frequent demand of left-wing Democrats, has reached 50%, YouGov said. Oh, so you mean it's not just Democrats? It's regular-ass people, too? How about that? That number is probably higher. It mirrors an NBC poll last month that showed 49% disapproval of Trump's handling of border security and immigration, traditionally a vote winner from his Republican base. Yes, he's managed even to cock that one up. The revelation comes amid an ongoing partial government shutdown over funding of the Homeland Security Department, responsible for implementing the Trump administration's often violent and murderous detention and deportation policies. It also follows a rocky appearance before Congress on Tuesday by Kristi Noem, as we were telling you about that, who came under fire from representatives on both sides of the House. She was challenged on her handling of immigration matters and the murders during anti-immigration enforcement protests in Minneapolis of Good and Preddy by U.S. CBP agents. Noem refused to retract her statements, calling the two unarmed protesters domestic terrorists, despite presenting no evidence to support the assertion. When we have these situations happen, we always offer our condolences to those families, and I offer mine as well. Thoughts and prayers. That's the standard MO. Noem, in response to a demand by Dick Durbin, a Democratic Illinois senator and ranking member of the Chamber's Judiciary Committee, to withdraw the terrorism allegation. Durbin pointed out that ICE and CBP officials testified to the House Judiciary Committee last month that they did not provide information to Noem that Preddy was in particular was a domestic terrorist, and asked her again to retract the claim. I was getting reports from the ground from agents at the scene, and I would say that it was a chaotic scene. Is it so hard to say you were wrong? Dearman responded. Noem's performance overall has been reported to be under scrutiny by Trump. Well, he did. He booted her, who has on several occasions appeared to soften his administration's hardline stance on immigration in an effort to win back public support ahead of November's midterm elections. Holman, Trump's so-called border czar, announced last month that controversial immigration operations in Minnesota, enacted by a surge of thousands of federal officers, would conclude. Holman, he was sent to Minneapolis to calm tensions following the removal of Gregory Bovino, the public face of Operation Metro Surge, who was often photographed directing agents while dressed in a German military-style overcoat. Yes, that's probably not a look that you want to show when you're saying you're not a Nazi. Bovino is now the subject of a state investigation for misconduct by federal officers during the operation and a separate Homeland Security Department inquiry into disparaging remarks he allegedly made about Daniel Rosen, U.S. Attorney for the District of Minnesota, who is Jewish. Weeks after Holman's announcement, however, close to 650 federal agents remain in the state. That's according to the Minnesota Star Tribune on Wednesday. A breakdown of the poll shows that 77% of Democrats and 52% of independents support abolishing ICE. Most Republican supporters, 68%, continue to oppose abolition, although the number in favor of it grew to 23%, a high point according to YouGov. So yeah, ICE is doing nothing but terrorizing citizens. That's all it's doing, right? Yes, it may be scaring, quote unquote, the illegals, but it's scaring everybody else too. And when you start scaring people, regular ass people, that's when they're going to start popping up and say, hey, you got to go. So yeah, gotta go. What we got next? Speaking of immigration, data shows the only refugees legally settled in the U.S. since October have been, wait for it, white South Africans. Womp, womp, womp. What's up, Steve? Good morning to you, bud. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Not a single refugee who isn't a white South African has been legally resettled in the U.S. Since October, according to the State Department's most recent arrivals report. The report published last month shows that from the start of October 2025 and the end of January this year, just 1,651 people were admitted under the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, or U.S. RAP, which allows those fearing persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or social group to apply for refugee in the United States. Aside from just 3, every single one of them was from South Africa. 3 Afghan refugees were also reported to have been settled in Colorado in November, but since then their admission has been indefinitely suspended, and those who have entered may be at risk of deportation. During that same period a year earlier, the final months of the Biden administration, a total of 37,596 refugees arrived in the U.S., with the greatest numbers coming from the Middle East, South Asia, and Africa. Bless the rains down in Africa. The Trump administration dramatically curbed refugee admissions during its first year in power. On its first day back in office last January, Trumpy suspended U.S. RAP processing, leaving around 600,000 people in the pipeline suddenly stranded, including roughly 10,000 who'd already booked flights. Around 130,000 of those refugees had already been through the State Department's meticulous and taxing vetting process and were instead left to languish in refugee camps around the world after being given the promise of safety and a new life in America, as a group of Democrats in Congress put it. Lies, lies, nothing but lies. The next month, however, Trump carved out an exception to the suspension exclusively for white South Africans who he has falsely claimed face a genocide and severe discrimination from land redistribution policies intended to correct extreme apartheid-era inequalities. Stop messing with the honkies, man. After previously discussing a cap of 40,000 refugee admissions for the fiscal year 2026, already a reduction by over two-thirds from the Biden administration, Trump announced on September 30th that he would lower admissions to just 7,500, a historic low. He announced the change without consultation with Congress, of course. That's his standard ammo, which is required under the 1980 Refugee Act, leading Democrats to accuse him of acting in open defiance of the law. Again. But in late February, Reuters reported on an internal State Department document showing that the administration was planning to welcome as many as 4,500 white South Africans to the U.S. per month and detailed plans to install trailers on U.S. Embassy property in the country to expedite more immigrant approvals. All the while, refugees fleeing war, government oppression, and genocide in countries including Syria, Sudan, Ukraine, Afghanistan, and others have been locked out or face threats of arrest by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. You remember that old children's tale from the sea, under a new policy requiring them to be reinspected to determine their ability for assimilation. The Borg. Many critics have pointed out the dramatic gulf in treatment between white immigrants from South Africa and members of other largely non-white groups of immigrants whom it has undertaken extreme measures to remove from the country with expediency. Willie, you old son of a gun, you. Thank you. Good riddance to that dog-killing bitch, but Mark Wayne Mullen is trailer park trash with millions of dollars who wants to start fights with union presidents. He's no better than Kristi Noem. Of course not. Thank you for that, Willie. That's very kind of you, as always. Of course it's going to be worse. It always is worse. They're always worse. They never replace them with anybody better. Just more ass kissier. Last month, a Rohingya refugee who fled genocide in Myanmar and legally entered the U.S. as a refugee was found dead on the streets of Buffalo, New York after being detained and then left outdoors in the freezing cold by immigration agents. The policy was revealed as part of a case in which a federal judge halted a DHS effort to detain thousands of refugees in Minnesota who did not seek green cards after their first year of residency in the U.S. While the Trump administration is trying to convert warehouses at home into massive prisons to jail and deport immigrants swept up in its racist crackdown, it's also working to build trailers in Pretoria so it can rapidly increase the number of white South Africans, wrote Jahan Jones in an opinion piece for MS Now. Liking it to the 1924 Immigration Act, which created strict ethnic quotas for entry into the U.S., Jones said it's kind of immigration policy the Ku Klux Klan dreamed of. Literally, this kind of quota system mirrors the kind of policies that white supremacist groups, including the Klan, pushed for 100 years ago. Wow, a racist guy letting white people into the country. Boy, you never heard of that. And if you forgot, Trump's old man was in the KKK or supported the KKK or something like that. Sons of the father doesn't mean that's, yeah. You look at what we're talking about. Of course Trump's going to be like that too. I mean, you hate to judge, you hate to say that kind of stuff, but I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Isn't it really? Yeah. So anywho, so things were bad enough here, with the immigration policy or lack thereof, I guess, just murdering people and just shipping people off any old place. We've got these tariffs that the Supreme Court said, can't do them. And now some of these U.S. states are saying the same thing too. Bella. Hello, my friend. I hope you're well. U.S. states stopped to sue to stop Trump's latest global tariffs. They need to sue to stop that fucked up hair. A group of 24 states in the U.S. have sued Trump's administration in the first legal challenge to his newly imposed 10% global tariffs, alleging that the president cannot sidestep a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling that invalidated most of his previous tariffs on imported goods by citing new legal authority. The Democratic-led states, including New York, California, and Oregon, in the lawsuit on Thursday, argued the new tariffs, which Trump announced immediately after the High Court ruling on February 20th, are also illegal. Trump has said the tariffs are essential to reduce America's long-standing trade deficits, which, that hasn't worked. He imposed duties under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 after the Supreme Court struck down tariffs he imposed last year under an emergency powers law. Section 122, which has never been invoked, allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15%. They are limited to 5 months unless extended by Congress and are meant to address short-term monetary emergencies, not routine trade deficits, according to the state's lawsuit filed in the New York-based U.S. Court of International Trade. I wish they'd do it in the U.S. Court of International Pancakes. That would be a great place to do that, too. The balance of payments deficit measures in the Trade Act are primarily intended to address archaic monetary risks that existed when foreign governments could trade dollars for gold held by the U.S., according to the states. Trump, however, has misapplied that standard in an attempt to instead address U.S. trade deficits, which occur when a nation imports more than it exports, according to the states. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said during a news conference that Trump's latest tariffs are an attempted end run around working with Congress as the U.S. Constitution requires. Make no mistake about it, Trump's signature economic policy is historically unpopular and is costing Americans, our business, and us as states hundreds of billions of dollars, Rayfield said. It cannot continue just because a few of Trump's lawyers have found a way to twist words and craft a legal argument. The focus right now should be on paying people back, not doubling down on illegal tariffs, he said. The suit comes a day after a judge ruled that companies that paid tariffs under Trump's old framework should get refunds. Uh-oh! Get my money! Where my money, bitch? Where my money, bitch? White House spokesperson Kush Desai, oh man, I'd love to have a spokesperson named Kush, said in a statement that the administration will vigorously defend the president's actions in court, as they have been his whole time that he's been in office. The president is using his authority granted by Congress to address fundamental international payments problems and to deal with our country's large and serious balance of payments deficit, Desai said. Although Congress isn't authorizing this, I think that's the whole point. Trump's February 20th executive order imposed a 10% tariff on imports, but U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Wednesday that those rates would likely rise to 15% later this week. Trump has made tariffs a central pillar of his foreign policy in his second term, claiming sweeping authority to issue tariffs without input from Congress, but the Supreme Court on February 20th handed Trump a stinging defeat, ouch, when it struck down a huge swath of tariffs he had imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, lovingly known to as on this show as the IEEPA, ruling that the law did not give him the power he claimed. Trump responded by criticizing the justices who ruled against him and announcing new duties under Section 122. Trump has also imposed other tariffs on imports like autos, steel, and aluminum. Under more traditional legal authority, those tariffs are safer from legal challenges. Meanwhile, the court is grappling with about 2,000 lawsuits. 2,000 lawsuits. That's a conservative number right there. From businesses seeking refunds for more than $130 billion in IEEPA tariff payments made by importers before the Supreme Court's February ruling. On Wednesday, the court ordered U.S. Customs to begin processing tariff refunds. So, yeah, sorry, Trumpy. Yeah. But what's going to happen, though? It's all going to be tied up in court. All of these things are tied up in court. That's the way he does it. He makes this executive order, and then dares you to challenge it in court. And then some people do, and they challenge it, and sometimes it gets knocked down, to which he plays whack-a-mole and jumps to another obscure law that he can exploit to do this bullshit. And that's all they're doing, is exploiting these arcane, rando-ass laws that are in the Constitution. If anything that libertarians are right about there being big government is some of these dumbass laws. They need to go through there and carve out a lot of these stupid-ass laws that don't mean shit no more. We can start there. So, yeah, the states are suing. We knew they would be. And, of course, with all the hubbub going on over across the way, diesel prices surge implies threats to U.S. economy. Yeah, because you know who uses diesel fuel? Truckers. You know what truckers do? They move shit. Your shit all over the place. Consumers across the U.S. are feeling the pinch as diesel prices surge, raising concerns about broader economic impacts. According to the Wall Street Journal, grocery stores and other retailers are paying higher fuel surcharges for trucking, passing those costs directly to shoppers, as they always do. Diesel inventories are particularly tight on the East Coast, while with prices in South Carolina rising 22 cents per gallon on Tuesday, while Ohio and Georgia saw increases of 18 cents. Spiking fuel costs are also hitting farmers, long-haul truckers, and other major diesel consumers hard in futures markets. Diesel prices climbed 23% in the first 2 days of the week to $3.19 per gallon, marking the highest level since October 2023, according to FactSec. No, it happened then. Yeah. October 7th, 2023. You know the thing. Gasoline prices are following a similar trend, rising 9 cents per gallon on Tuesday to push the national average to $3.19. According to the American Automobile Association, that's AAA. Over the past 2 days, U.S. gas prices have jumped 20 cents, the fastest two-day increase since March 2022. The effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a key passage for roughly 20% of the world's oil, combined with retaliatory attacks by Iran on oil facilities in countries such as the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, has sent crude and refined fuel prices sharply higher. And so we might as well get into our coverage of war in Iran. So that's of course on Saturday, February 28th, the United States and Israel attacked Iran, firing weapons, missiles at various targets around the country. And they were supposed to vote on a House resolution for Trump's war on Iran, and apparently that died very poorly. The House of Representatives on Thursday voted to kill a resolution meant to halt President Trump's war on Iran without congressional authorization as U.S.-Israeli airstrikes continue to pound the country. The War Powers resolution failed in a vote of 212 to 219 with just two Republicans, Representatives Thomas Massie and Warren Davidson, supporting the measure. Four Democrats joined Republicans in opposing the effort to reassert war powers over the executive. That would be ass-kissers Henry Cuellar, Jared F. Golden, Greg Landsman, and Juan Vargas. Massie, who introduced the bill, said the vote was important to lawmakers on record to see where they stand on the war. The Iran War Powers resolution narrowly failed, but we put everyone on record, he wrote on tweeters. We're being told this military action could last months. That's the exact circumstance in which the founders intended for Congress to authorize war, but sadly, we've now abdicated that responsibility, Massie said. Representative Rokana, a sponsor of the bill, said that Republicans now own this Middle East regime change war due to the strong opposition among Democrats. The Senate defeated a parallel war powers resolution on Wednesday. Just one Republican, Senator Rand Paul, supported the bill, and one Democrat, John Fetterman, crossed party lines to oppose the resolution. Of course, Lurch would do that shit because Lurch is out of his tree. Congress failed to reassert its war powers over the executive, even though the Trump administration hasn't made a coherent case for why the war was launched and is escalating the conflict with no clear timeline or goals. So far, more than 1,000 Iranian civilians, up to 1,300 now, have been killed by U.S. and Israeli strikes. This is from antiwar.com. Be sure to check them out for news aggregation and their own journalism as well. So, yeah. This is like in poker. They're pushing their chips all in. Now, how that's going to play come November is going to be a different story. Because you may remember last Tuesday, I think it was not this past Tuesday, the Tuesday before last, when Trump was doing his State of the Union and was talking about how evil Iran was, and you saw Democrats in the gallery standing up and applauding him. So don't say that that Democrats are all against this. They're not. There's some warmonger motherfuckers up in there. So that got killed. And as we said, now it's up to 1,300. U.S.-Israeli war kills over 1,300 Iranians, destroys thousands of civilian buildings. So like I said, they upped this to 1,300, I believe. So at least 1,300 Iranians have been killed since the joint U.S.-Israeli war against the Islamic Republic started 6 days ago, according to figures released by officials yesterday, with thousands of civilian buildings targeted and confirmed strikes on more than a dozen medical facilities. The number of martyrs from the aggressive military attack carried out by criminal America and the uprising or the usurping Israeli regime against the Islamic homeland had reached 1,230 as of March 5th. We said they updated those numbers this morning. That's according to the Foundation of Martyrs and Veterans Affairs said. Iranian officials said the attacks targeted civilian areas and infrastructure across the country, including schools, hospitals, sports facilities, heritage sites, and residential neighborhoods. In other words, Israel's usual suspects. An Al Jazeera investigation published on March 3rd examined the strike on the Shajare Tayyibeh elementary school in Manab that killed at least 165 schoolgirls aged 7 to 12, the deadliest single incident reported in the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran so far. Using satellite imagery and geolocated footage, investigators found the school had long been clearly separated from a nearby military site, with analysts cited in the report saying the strike was a deliberate double tap attack rather than a targeting error. In the aftermath, funerals have been held across Tehran and other cities as families mourn hundreds of victims killed during the first days of the assault. The WHO confirmed that medical infrastructure had also been struck. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told reporters that the agency had verified 13 attacks on health facilities in Iran and one in Lebanon, while it was also reviewing reports that 4 medical workers were killed and 25 others injured. At the same briefing, WHO Regional Director Hanan Balki said 4 ambulances had been damaged and several hospitals suffered strike-related damage, with one hospital in Tehran evacuated as a result. Meanwhile, the head of the Iranian Red Crescent Society said the attacks had destroyed 3,646 residential buildings and 528 commercial units, while 14 medical centers were affected and 3 hospitals were completely disabled. Iranian officials have described the strikes on civilian infrastructure as a flagrant breach of international humanitarian law and an undisputed war crime. Yeah, and there's still idiots out there who believe that Iran bombed their own school, right? There's still these morons out there. They're like, well, this Fox guy said that it was possible that they could have bombed their own school because the missiles were so close and sometimes they fall down. So no proof, just spitballing, and that's what they're going with, because the alternative means you're backing someone who bombed and murdered a bunch of school children. I wouldn't want that on my conscience either. But then again, I wouldn't be targeting children in the first place like these evil fuckers. Yeah. So, nobody wanted this shit. Nobody wanted the United States to attack, except for the warmongers and the cultists, right? Because majority believe Trump's war on Iran has made America less safe. Definitely for Americans traveling abroad. If you're traveling abroad, be very careful. Most Americans are not buying the White House's narrative that the war on Iran is making the world a safer place. What? They think Trump's full of shit? A poll released by Fox News, this was Fox News on Wednesday, found that 51% of Americans believe they are less safe because of the U.S. and Israeli war against Iran. Only 3 in 10 Americans thought the military actions were making them safer. So if that's a Fox poll, that means this number is probably way higher. Americans were overwhelmingly opposed to Trump launching a war against Iran before the opening attack on Saturday. A snap poll on the day of the attack found under 30% of Americans supporting the operation. Since a greater number of Republicans have said that they support the conflict, the Fox News poll said the war in Iran was a 50-50 issue with Americans. However, other surveys have found far fewer Americans approve of the war. So this is your right end of the spectrum, and that's still 51%. While the administration initially presented the war as a quick operation, top officials have given increasingly longer timelines for the conflict. Yes, when you go in not knowing what the fuck you're doing, of course, it's going to end up taking longer. The war has turned into a regional conflict as Iran has responded by attacking Israel, the U.S., and Washington's allies in the Middle East. At the same time, American and Israeli warplanes and missiles continue to pound Iran. So, yeah, nobody wanted this shit. And they're trying to sell it as, Iran's a bunch of evil fuckers. They could attack us at any time. They could have a bomb any second. Y'all, what are you waiting on? Even that idiot Gavin Newsom was like, yes, Iran is an evil empire, evil, but I don't think we should have an illegal war, blah, blah, blah. It's like, now you fuckers know. When did Iran attack us? That's what I want to know. When did that happen? I can't quite remember. Let me look at my calendar. Oh, it says they never have. So now Trump is saying, oh, no, we're going to fight them till they unconditionally surrender, right? But they're not going to surrender. Not anymore. They're not even coming to the table, Iran. Arachi says Iran is ready to face U.S. ground troops and doesn't seek a ceasefire. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arachi said yesterday that Iran is ready to fight U.S. ground troops amid indications that the Trump administration is preparing to send forces into the country. Arachi was asked during an appearance on NBC News if Iran was afraid of a U.S. ground invasion. He said, no, we're waiting for them, he replied, because we are confident that we can confront them and that will be a big disaster for them. Again, it's their home turf. It's a very mountainous region. It would be like trying to defeat somebody in Afghanistan, but a hell of a lot worse. Just think if the Afghanistan, if those people had like the weapons Iran has, which they didn't. Trump and his top officials have refused to rule out the idea of putting boots on the ground in Iran, and during the lead up to the war, media reports said that the president was considering sending commandos into the country to launch raids against military sites. Arachi also said Iran was not seeking a ceasefire despite the major U.S. and Israeli airstrikes across the country, pointing to the fact that the U.S. and Israel launched attacks during negotiations. We are not asking for a ceasefire, and we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the U.S., Arachi said. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us in the middle of negotiations, so there is no request for a ceasefire by us. Yeah, as soon as they stop fighting, that's when they'll start pummeling them again. Arachi added that Israel requested a ceasefire during the 12-day war in June last year. We didn't ask for a ceasefire even last time. And previous time, it was Israel who asked for a ceasefire. They asked for an unconditional ceasefire after 12 days that we resisted against their aggression, he said. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out thing. Unless, somebody gets nuked. That might stop some things, but Trump, being the brilliant strategy person that he is probably going to send troops, ground troops in, and a lot of them are probably going to get massacred. But not the AI. The AI will be fine. Anthropic's AI tool Claude central to U.S. campaign in Iran amid a bitter feud. In order to strike a blistering 1,000 targets in the first 24 hours of its attack on Iran, the U.S. military leveraged the most advanced artificial intelligence it's ever used in warfare, a tool that could be difficult for the Pentagon to give up, even as it severs its ties with the company that created it. The military's Maven Smart system, which is built by data mining company Palantir, is generating insights from an astonishing amount of classified data from satellites, surveillance, and other intelligence, helping provide real-time targeting and target prioritization to military operations in Iran, according to 3 people familiar with the system. Embedded into the system is Anthropic's AI tool Claude, a technology that was banned by the Pentagon last week after heated negotiations over the terms of its use in war. Over the last year, military planners have seen Claude paired with Maven mature into a tool that is in daily use across most parts of the military, according to 2 of the people. As planning for a potential strike in Iran was underway, Maven, powered by Claude, suggested hundreds of targets, issued precise location coordinates, and prioritized those targets according to importance, said 2 of the people. The pairing of Maven and Claude has created a tool that is speeding the pace of the campaign, reducing Iran's ability to counterstrike, and turning weeks-long battle planning into real-time operations, said 1 of the people. The AI tools also evaluate a strike after it is initiated, the person said. Claude has also been used in countering terror plots and in the raid that captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, but this is the first time it's been used in major war operations, according to 2 of the people. Even though the tool is being used to support the U.S. military campaign in Iran, relations between Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and the Trump administration have soured. Hours before the bombing in Iran began, Trump announced he was banning government agencies from further using Anthropic's tools, giving the department 6 months to phase them out. The move came after a bitter fight between the company and the military over control of using the tools in mass domestic surveillance and fully autonomous weapons. The military will continue using its technology as it waits for a replacement to be phased in, said 2 of the people. Military commanders have become so dependent on the AI system that if Amodei directed the military to cease, the Trump administration would use government powers to retain the technology until it can be replaced, said 1 of the people. Whether his morals are right or wrong or whatever, we're not going to let Amodei's decision-making cost a single American life, the person said. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Anthropic spokesman Eduardo Maya Silva declined to comment. Palantir spokeswoman Lisa Gordon declined to comment. Claude's use in the Iran strikes was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Even Claude refused to comment. The use of advanced generative AI in the Iran campaign serves as a moment of fierce debate over the ethics and speed of using such tools in warfare. It's notable that we're already at the point where AI has gone from hypothetical to supporting real-world operations being conducted today, said Paul Scharr, executive vice president at the Center for a New American Security, and who has written about AI in warfare. The key paradigm shift is that AI enables the U.S. military to develop targeting packages at machine speed rather than human speed. The downside, he said, our AI gets it wrong. We need humans to check the output of generative AI when the stakes are life and death. That's right. AI gets it wrong. So if you're one of these people that totally depends on on AI, especially if you're using it for legal matters. You might want to double check it. Or not use it at all. Rondo. So is that why they're targeting Wile E. Coyote helicopters painted on the ground? I know what you're saying. Wile E. Coyote helicopters. Acme. The Pentagon began to integrate Anthropic's Claude chat box into Maven in late 2024, according to public announcements. The system has been used to generate proposed targets, to track logistics, and provide summaries of intelligence coming in from the field. The Trump administration has vastly expanded the use of Maven into many other parts of the military, with over 20,000 military personnel using it as of last May. The commanders now overseeing the Iran campaign are steeped in the use of Maven, while having used earlier versions of the system in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 and to support Israel after the October 7, 2023 attacks, according to a talk by Navy Rear Admiral Liam Hullen in 2024. Hullen, now the Deputy Director of Operations at Central Command, said then that the system pulled in information from 179 sources of data. CENTCOM is heavily using MSS, Hullen said, referring to Maven by an acronym. Acronym? That might be a word too. Probably not. It was not immediately clear if Maven's target lists were shared with the Israelis prior to the attack, but the two sides collaborated on what to strike for months. The IDF, in close cooperation with the U.S. Army, worked for thousands of hours to build as valuable and extensive a target bank as possible, they said in a statement shortly after operations began. Oh, I'm sure they did. They basically said, everybody, there's your targeting. Anthropic was the first major AI company to work with classified data, as the Pentagon works to leverage the technology to help it modernize how it conducts war. Amodai said last week that Claude was extensively deployed across the Defense Department and at other security agencies in use for analyzing intelligence and planning operations. I believe deeply in the existential importance of using AI to defend the U.S. and other democracies and to defeat our autocratic adversaries, Amodai wrote in a dystopian blog post as negotiations with the Pentagon reached an impasse. It's been quickly adopted. NATO, which signed a contract with Palantir last year, portrayed its version of Maven as giving commanders video game-like abilities to oversee battles in a recent video. In the American military, the system allowed one artillery unit to do the work of 2,000 staff with a team of just 20 people, according to a study of the system's use by the Army's 18th Airborne Corps by Georgetown University. But other AI companies are now poised to supplant Anthropic at the Pentagon. Elon Musk's xAI signed an agreement last week to work on classified government systems, as did Anthropic's leading rival OpenAI. Remember, the Washington Post, that's where this is coming from. It has a content partnership with OpenAI. There you go. Ben Van Roo, the CEO and co-founder of Legion Intelligence, a defense software startup, said that in his work over the last 2.5 years integrating generative AI into software systems at the Department of War, the baseline use case is chat and advanced search functions, essentially summarizing information. It's not highly integrated into weapons or mission control critical systems, he said, at least not yet. Yeah, it probably is. He said that he wasn't aware of its use in Iran, but wondered how it built on existing software that is already able to prioritize targets. Shar said he was impressed by the speed of deployment in Iran. It's quite remarkable to see this in the middle of an operation, he added. And yeah, so if they're using AI for targeting purposes, then who decides who the targets are, right? If they're just letting Claude do it willy-nilly, then that's probably why you're seeing a lot of innocent people dying, because they're not double checking, and if they are, they're just going, So meanwhile, I think some people, tourists around the area, why you want to be touring around Iran this time of year, I don't know why, but apparently some of them are trapped over there now. 15,000 cruise ship passengers trapped in Gulf waters. So the near total shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz has left tourists and seafarers stranded as war continues to rage. So they shut it off, right? Thousands of cruise ship passengers remain stranded in the Gulf as a result of the war on Iran. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, in my opinion, a UN-run agency told AFP on Thursday that around 20,000 seafarers and 15,000 cruise ship passengers were trapped as the conflict has frozen travel. Beyond the economic impact of these alarming attacks, it is a humanitarian issue. No attack on innocent seafarers is ever justified, Arsenio Dominguez, the IMO's Secretary General, said. I reiterate my call for all shipping companies to exercise maximum caution when operating in the affected region, he added. The freeze on travel is part of the growing number of industries that have been disrupted by the war in the Middle East, with tourism severely affected by the region-wide conflict. Inbound arrivals have been projected to fall by as much as a quarter year on year in 2026, according to global forecasting. As well as tourists, seafarers have been placed at risk. On Thursday, 2 Indian crew members were reported to have been killed in attacks on a tanker. Ashish Kumar and Dalip Singh were killed in strikes on a Palau-flagged oil tanker called Skylight in the Gulf of Oman. Many of the ships affected were expected to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, which has been all but closed by Iran following the start of the war. Some 23,000 Indian crew remain stranded near the Hormuz Strait. Traffic in the strait has been almost ground to a halt by Iran, with seaborne traffic falling by 80% over the weekend and oil tanker transits through the strait dropping by 90% from last week. Yeah, so there's still people over there. Can you imagine being on a cruise ship and and then all of a sudden war breaks out and you can't go anywhere. You're stuck there. That would be very bad news bears for sure. So what's I know a lot of people are like, well, women. Yemen is usually in the mix. What are they doing? Well, Ansarallah official says Yemen in declared state of war. Ali al-Imad, head of Yemen's Central Organization for Control and Auditing and member of the Ansarallah Political Bureau, told The Cradle in an exclusive interview Wednesday that Sana'a is already in a declared state of war. His comments signal potential intervention from Yemen at some point in the ongoing regional war sparked by the U.S.-Israeli aggression on Iran. Sana'a considers itself to be in a declared state of war, and the decision to escalate depends on battlefield conditions, he said when asked about opening a front. Asked about why Sana'a's forces have not already entered the fight directly, Imad told The Cradle, from the very first day, the leader of Ansarallah, Saeed Abdul Malik al-Houthi, announced our full readiness for confrontation. We consider ourselves to be in a declared state of war and confrontation, but determining the time and place of engagement is subject to the leadership's decision and the conditions of the battle. We believe we are one front and we fight our enemies only within a unified collective path. He responded to speculation that Yemen's position is linked to Gulf states directly entering the war offensively by saying that this battle is not Arab versus Arab, nor is it between Islamic countries. The confrontation is with the U.S., with its direct military presence and its roles in the region. We do not link our position to any Gulf decision, and there has been no bilateral communication or offers from those regimes, nor could we accept such things, he went on to say. We consider standing with Iran a religious and national duty because it is on the front line confronting a project that targets the entire region, whether under the banner of Greater Israel or the New Middle East. We will remain steadfast in supporting the axis of resistance in confronting Israel, the U.S., and some Western countries, he added. The Cradle also asked the Ansarallah member if the delay in Yemeni military intervention was Sana'a's decision or if Yemen was waiting for a decision or request from the axis of resistance. The path is one, and coordination exists within a unified front. The Yemeni decision is strongly present, but it is part of a broader vision based on acting as one nation confronting a single enemy. Victory can only be achieved through integration and coordination. When questioned about Yemen's red lines, he said, "Our strategy is based on clear phases of escalation. When the enemy crosses certain lines, we move to a new stage. This approach has been tested and proven effective, and it was previously adopted in the support front in support of Gaza. After the genocide started in Gaza in 2023, well, before that, really, the Ansarallah-led Yemeni armed forces, the YAF, was among the first groups to intervene militarily alongside Lebanon's Hezbollah and Iraqi resistance factions. The YAF implemented an unprecedented naval blockade on Israel and began to target vessels linked to Israeli interests or those which were en route to Israeli ports. The operations inflicted a major blow to global shipping and the Israeli economy, while European and U.S. naval deployments failed to deter Sana'a. Yemen also targeted Washington's warships, with U.S. officials saying at the time that it was the most intense naval combat since World War II. Trump launched a major war against Yemen in March last year, killing hundreds of civilians in a mass bombing campaign that failed to prevent the YAF from continuing its operations. The interview with Ahmad comes as Iran launches nonstop drone and missile operations against Israeli targets and U.S. bases in the Gulf in response to the unprovoked war initiated by Washington and Tel Aviv against Tehran last Saturday. Iraqi resistance factions have also targeted U.S. bases with drones. Hezbollah has begun military operations as well and has targeted several Israeli Merkava tanks on the Lebanese southern border. Joint rocket and missile barrages by Hezbollah and Iran were launched towards Israel on Wednesday for the first time. So it just looks like that Yemen is going to come in whenever they feel the time is right. You know, you've got the Strait of Hormuz is locked down. So I would think that anyone that comes near their territory is probably going to get attacked, as that's been what they've been doing in the past. So Yemen just kind of waiting in the wings, getting ready to jump in. Let's see. Where are we at here? Okay. All right. Finally, we go to the UK. Keir Starmer says Trump must negotiate with Iran. There we go. Sir Keir Starmer has called on Trump to negotiate with Iran. The Prime Minister said the U.S. must reach a settlement with Tehran in which the regime gives up its ambitions to develop a nuclear weapon and the war is brought to an end. And just so you know, in case you haven't been paying attention, Iran never had nuclear weapons. They didn't plan on getting nuclear weapons. They had no intention of getting nuclear weapons. But here we are. He also defended his decision not to join the U.S. in Israeli strikes on Iran at the weekend after being accused of responding too slowly. Keir decided to address the nation amid mounting criticism of his handling of the crisis, including the sluggish decision to send a warship to defend Cyprus. Speaking at a Downing Street press conference on Thursday, Keir said, "The long-standing British position is that the best way forward for the regime and the world is a negotiated settlement with Iran where they give up their nuclear ambitions." Trump ruled out negotiating with the Iranian regime and warned that it was too late for Tehran to talk. In the days since, Iran has launched missile and drone attacks at Western allies in the Gulf, threatening to drag multiple countries into the war. Asked how long the conflict might last, Keir replied, "I can't give you a time base for this. I don't think anybody can. My strong view is that we need to de-escalate, and ultimately this will have to be a matter of negotiation." Trump has said the joint U.S.-Israeli operation will last for 4 to 5 weeks, but added that we have capability to go far longer than that. Keir infuriated Trump when he banned Washington from using British bases to strike the Iranian regime. The U.S. president has repeatedly criticized the prime minister, who has since allowed American warplanes to use the bases for defensive operations. Defending his response, Keir said, "While the region has been plunged into chaos, my focus is on providing calm, level-headed leadership in the national interest. That means deploying our military and diplomatic strength to protect our people, and it means having the strength to stand firm by our values and our principles, no matter the pressure to do otherwise." I said good day, sir. Keir was asked about reports that Ed Miliband had led a cabinet revolt over the use of British bases. The Labour leader did not directly deny the story. At a meeting on Friday, he argued that there was a case for allowing the U.S. to use bases, including Diego Garcia on the Chagos Islands, to attack Iranian missile sites. But following opposition from Mr. Miliband, as well as the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, Sir Keir initially refused the U.S. permission. He relented 48 hours later because he's a big old cuck. Asked about the claims, Keir said that a request from the U.S. to use the bases for defensive purposes had arrived only on Saturday afternoon. Actually, on Friday, we had no request from the U.S. and therefore no decision failed to be made, he said. Regional allies, including Cyprus, Bahrain, and Kuwait, have also accused the prime minister of failing to do enough to defend them from Iran's drone and missile attacks. Cyprus is home to RAF Akrotiri, a key base that was hit by a drone at the weekend. The High Commissioner to Britain said it was disappointed in Britain's response. Emmanuel Macron dispatched a carrier group from the Baltic to defend the island as British officials initially dithered over whether to send in the Royal Navy. Eventually, Sir Keir announced that HMS Dragon, a Type 45 destroyer, would be sent, but it is undergoing repairs and will not reach Cyprus for 2 weeks. Keir argued that the UK had pre-deployed more military assets to Cyprus and the Middle East at the start of the year. The Prime Minister announced that more hardware will also be sent, including Wildcat helicopters to Cyprus and 4 Typhoon fighter jets to Bahrain. We started pre-deploying in January and February our assets to the region to make sure that we had the capability we needed there, he said. It was done in conjunction with the U.S., in conjunction with our allies, and we're bolstering that again. And therefore, I can say we are doing everything we can and have done everything we can at speed to make sure that we are properly protecting our citizens, which is my number one concern. Sir Keir also insisted that in spite of Trump's criticism, U.S.-UK military cooperation was ongoing and the special relationship is in operation right now. Like special needs operation. Yeah, so basically Iran's not backing down. Neither side is talking about negotiations at this point. 1,300 people killed in Iran. Apparently the official number is 6 U.S. military, but I'm pretty sure that number is bullshit. It's probably much higher than that. So we'll keep an eye on this as the war progresses. Is this the beginning of World War III? Might be. I think it probably is, especially as more nations get involved. And then who's going to get involved with Iran, right? Like Yemen is waiting in the wings. But what will Russia do? One of their BRICS partners. What will China do? Looks like they're taking a wait and see attitude, but you know. And then of course Israel has nukes. So there's always that. You know, if they get pummeled too much, here come the bombs, right? So was this about safety? Yeah, it's probably that. And ships getting attacked too. Their CENTCOM is lying through their teeth about how many casualties they have, things that have been hit, that sort of thing. Of course, they won't divulge any real numbers, because the war and morale and stuff like that. So part of this is Trump's ego. And guess what? He wants to name Khomeini's successor, and he's not Iranian, so I don't know how that's going to work.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Yeah, we should probably just ended it there. No, it's more propaganda. You can't stop it.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah, I should have probably ended it. Those buttons are way too close together. Trump declares he must be involved in picking Khomeini's successor. Of course, Ayatollah Khomeini was killed over the weekend. Trumpy has insisted that he must be involved in choosing Iran's next supreme leader, drawing a comparison to the situation in Venezuela after the kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife during an Axios phone interview reported yesterday. They're wasting their time. Khomeini's son is a lightweight. I have to be involved in the appointment like with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela, Trump said in the call interview. Khomeini's son is unacceptable to me. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran, he added. During the 8-minute phone interview, Trump discussed his war planning and the succession crisis following the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and acknowledged that his son, Mojtaba Khomeini, has emerged as the leading candidate to succeed his father. Succeed. That's what it was. Yeah, it is. Right. They think they cut off the head and that's it. But there's multiple heads. The U.S. president said he would reject any successor who continues the policies of the late leader, warning that Washington would return to military aggression if Iran's next leadership failed to align with the U.S. demands. We'll keep bombing you. Asked earlier in the week who could replace Khomeini, Trump bluntly told reporters at the White House, most of the people we had in mind are dead. Yeah, well, there you go. Probably shouldn't have killed him. His comments directly contradict what other U.S. officials assert publicly, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other senior figures repeatedly denying that the objective of the joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran is regime change, but rather to weaken Iran's missile program, nuclear infrastructure, and naval forces. Meanwhile, the leadership succession process within Iran has taken place under escalating military assault. Israel bombed a building in the city of Qom on Tuesday that houses the clerical body responsible for selecting the new supreme leader in what appeared to be an attempt to disrupt the vote, the report said. Trump also drew parallels between Iran's leadership succession and the U.S. regime change operation in Venezuela earlier this year, after U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro during a military raid in January and flew him to the U.S. for imprisonment. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez assumed power shortly afterward. Trump later described Venezuela as our new friend and partner, adding that the oil is beginning to flow, following a visit to Caracas by his U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. And that, yeah, it was never about drugs in Venezuela. It is about the Earl. And it's not so much about the oil in Iran, but it's basically just doing what Israel tells them to do, is what that's about. Trump, you're my bitch. Go take care of them. Okay, I'll do whatever you want. Just use a little more lube next time you go in so deep. So we were talking about the school in Iran that there's all this controversy around, or at least some Democrats or some Republicans are trying to start, that Iran bombed their own school. Oopsie sauce. It was a falling bomb. They didn't mean to do it, but it happened. See, it happens in Gaza all the time. The dumbest shit I've ever heard. Well, this is from the U.S., the horse's mouth. U.S. warplanes likely responsible for Manab school massacre in Iran, internal probe shows. An internal U.S. probe says this. U.S. investigators probing the deadly attack on the Sharaja Tayyaba girls' elementary school in the Iranian city of Manab believe a U.S. military strike is the most likely cause of the bombing that killed over 180 people, of whom at least 165 were children, according to officials who spoke to Reuters. Two U.S. officials told the outlet that the investigation remains ongoing and that a final determination has not been reached. However, preliminary findings suggest the strike was most likely carried out by U.S. forces, though they added that additional evidence could still emerge that changes the conclusion. Reports and investigations by multiple outlets have reached a similar conclusion. An investigation by the New York Times based on satellite imagery, verified videos, and social media material found the school had been hit by precision strike at the same time that nearby targets linked to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, came under attack. A similar recent investigation by Middle East Eye indicated the site was struck twice, describing the incident as a so-called double-tap strike. A double-tap strike is a tactic meant to maximize civilian casualties in which a second missile hits the same location shortly after the first, deliberately killing survivors and rescuers who rush to the scene to help the wounded. The BBC later reported that satellite imagery and open-source evidence suggested the area was struck by multiple simultaneous or near-simultaneous attacks. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt deflected accusations of deliberate targeting, telling Reuters that the Iranian regime targets civilians and children, not the U.S. of America. Well, apparently they do, honey. Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Office has called for an independent investigation into the incident, with spokesperson Ravina Shamdasani telling reporters in Geneva that the onus is on the forces that carried out the attack to investigate it without naming a responsible party. Less than 1 week into the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, Iranian authorities said at least 1,230 people have been killed. That's been up to over 1,300. With thousands of residential and commercial buildings destroyed and repeated strikes reported on civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, sports facilities, and heritage sites. The World Health Organization confirmed at least 13 attacks on health facilities in Iran, while the Iranian Red Crescent Society said 3,646 homes, 528 commercial units, and 14 medical centers were damaged, with 3 hospitals completely disabled. Yeah. They are dying to absolve from accountability. They're dying to that's like, you know, they keep saying they love kids, they want, you know, help kids and stuff like that, but as soon as they blow the fuck out of a whole bunch of them, then it's like, oh, that wasn't us, we can't claim responsibility. It's like, yeah, it was you. It was not only you, it was you twice. It was a double tap. That's the thing. You can't keep this shit secret for too long. Not anymore. And if they think that Iran's going to just fall by the wayside anytime soon, that's probably not going to happen either. Just because he took out the Ayatollah and some of his people around him, that doesn't mean they don't have some sort of layered, structured leadership system there. If the head gets taken out, others rise up, kind of situation. So this is from Kyle Anzalone from the Libertarian Institute. Israeli defense official says no signs Iranian military is near collapse. So this is from Israeli defense. An Israeli defense official explained that Tehran had learned lessons during the war in June and the Iranian military was not close to collapse. The Iranians learned lessons from Operation Kalavi, a senior Israeli military official told the Israeli outlet Walla on Tuesday. They are still functioning militarily at a level that is between moderate and weak, but they are functioning. There is confusion there. There is great difficulty, but there are no signs of collapse. Following the joint U.S. and Israeli attack on Iran on Saturday, the Iranian military quickly began responding by striking Israel and U.S. military bases in the Middle East. Several Iranian missiles have bypassed American and Israeli interceptors, leading to the deaths of at least 6 American soldiers. Of course, we know that number is much, much, much more. What's up, Zell? Good to see you. The war started after several rounds of talks between U.S. and Iran, while negotiators said progress was made during the discussions last week. Trump said he was unhappy with the process and ordered the attack, even though he had been planning it for months. The senior Israeli official told Walla that Tehran made a mistake engaging with, Tehran made a mistake engaging with, I guess that's supposed to be Tehran, made a mistake engaging with the U.S. The Iranians made 2 strategic mistakes. The first is the conduct of negotiations with the U.S., they explained. U.S. officials told the press after the start of the conflict that the White House was planning for a campaign that would last a few days. Top U.S. officials have publicly increased the timeline, with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth explaining the war could last 8 weeks or longer. Politico reported on Wednesday that the military was now planning for the conflict to last at least 100 days, but more likely through September. So what's this, March, April, May, June, July, August, September? That's 6 months, dude. On Tuesday, Major General Amir Bahram said Tel Aviv was ramping up arms production in preparation for a long and expanding conflict. The discussion focused on accelerating the production rate of essential offensive and defensive solutions as part of the preparations for continued combat and the potential expansion to additional fronts. So they're saying this could last into September. And guess what? It's probably going to last past September. Let's not be silly about this. And some Saudi journalists are chiming in about what's going on over there too. So Saudi journalists said not all attacks on Gulf coming from Iran. Fears U.S.-Israel dragging monarchies into war. Looks like a volcano, doesn't it? In an interview broadcast on a baby shark, baby shark. On March 3rd, Adwan al-Amari, the editor-in-chief of Independent Arabia and the president of the Saudi Journalists Association, said that not all attacks targeting Persian Gulf nations come from Iran, and stressed fears that the U.S.-Israeli alliance wants to trap Gulf nations into joining the war. Some believe this war is an American-Israeli trap to implicate the Gulf countries and draw them into a confrontation with Iran, Amari said. This hypothesis, I think, increases every day. What if the U.S. announces after a week, 10 days, or 2 weeks that it has achieved all its goals in this war and that the war is over, and then leaves the Gulf states in an open confrontation, he asked. In parallel, Mideast Eye reported in an exclusive article that Iranian officials said Israel carried out several drone strikes on energy infrastructure in the Gulf. The official reportedly declined to specify which incidents were attributed to Israel, but said at least some of the drone strikes on Gulf infrastructure were not carried out by Iran. I can categorically say that some of the attacks were not carried out by us, Iran, the anonymous official told Mideast Eye. Saudi Arabia has faced several drone and missile attacks in recent days, including strikes targeting Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Aramco's Ras Tanura oil refinery, and the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. 2 additional Iranian sources told Mideast Eye that Israel's Mossad intelligence service may have launched some operations from within Iran, claiming authorities were searching for drone storage facilities allegedly used in the attacks. What, Mossad? Nah, they would never do anything like that, would they? Yeah, September 2030, maybe. Iranian officials also said Tehran had informed Saudi Arabia it was not responsible for the strike on the Ras Tanura facility, describing the incident as an Israeli effort to sabotage regional peace and alliances between neighbors. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, meanwhile, told Gulf leaders that Tehran's military actions were aimed at defending itself after U.S.-Israeli attacks. We respect your sovereignty, he said, adding that regional security must be achieved through the collective efforts of its states. So, like, look, we We cherish your, your autonomy there, but you got bases. And that's fair game, too. If they got U.S. bases, fuck around, find out, right? They fucked around, put those U.S. bases on there thinking they were going to be safe. Nope. Well, this is the biggest tragedy of them all is the Israeli influencers are not getting paid. What? They're not getting paid, y'all. Israel's online propaganda network unravels as influencers sue Tel Aviv over unpaid contracts. Israel's global propaganda machine is facing increasing legal pressure after influencers, consultants, and media companies filed lawsuits worth millions of shekels against the government, accusing it of failing to pay for work done in support of its international messaging campaign during Israel's genocide in Gaza, the Calculist reported yesterday. You're not paying us for our propaganda like you said you were. According to Calculist, many of the individuals involved say they were urgently recruited at the height of the war to promote Israeli narratives abroad, only to later discover that the government had not secured proper payment arrangements. Oopsie sauce! Investigations have since uncovered serious irregularities inside the Prime Minister's office, which took over Israel's international messaging apparatus after the collapse of the Ministry of Information following Operation Aqsa Flood in October 2023. Officials reportedly bypassed formal tender procedures and instead expanded existing contracts with private production firms, which then served as conduits to funnel payments to pro-Israel commentators and consultants operating overseas. Yep. That's right. The $7,000 checks be bouncing, made of rubber. Jack shekel. Several of these companies now say the state has refused to settle its debts. One firm, Intellect Production and Publishing Group, filed a lawsuit seeking roughly 1.7 million shekels. That's about a little over $500,000 after covering travel costs and media operations aimed at countering pro-Palestine demonstrations during hearings at the International Court of Justice. Former Israeli government spokesperson Elon Levy is among the figures who say the government still owes them money for work carried out in Israel's international messaging campaign. I lied for you motherfuckers. Where's my money? According to the Calculist report, Levy's monthly pay of 41,125 shekels, just over 13 grand American cash, was routed through the production company Intellect Production and Publishing Group rather than paid directly by the state. Another company, Speedy Call, established a 24-hour interview studio inside the Kura military headquarters used by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior officials. The company says Israel now refuses to pay more than 600,000 shekels, around 200 grand, for 9 months of work. The payment disputes unfolding inside Israel's propaganda apparatus are emerging alongside broader revelations about the scale of Tel Aviv's global messaging campaign during the war on Gaza. Investigations and public filings have shown that Israeli-linked public relations firms paid U.S. social media influencers thousands of dollars per post. What was it? Where's the thing? 7,000? Yeah. To promote pro-Israeli narratives online. Documents submitted under the U.S. Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, revealed payments averaging up to $7,000 per post as part of the so-called Esther Project, a propaganda campaign aimed at shaping public opinion on platforms such as TikTok and Instagram in favor of Israel and demonizing its opposition. $7 grand is how much it costs to sell your soul these days. Israel has previously organized carefully managed influencer tours inside Gaza, inviting social media figures to visit aid distribution sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the Go Fuck Yourself people, the GHF, a deadly U.S.-Israeli aid scheme in an effort to counter international reporting on famine in the enclave. The visits were presented as proof that Israel was facilitating humanitarian assistance, despite extensive documentation by numerous organizations, including the UN, showing that the famine in Gaza was a direct result of Israel's systematic restrictions on humanitarian aid and its obstruction of relief deliveries. Let me put this over here. These initiatives form part of what Israeli officials themselves have described as the eighth front of the war, a parallel battle over narrative and perception fought across social media platforms, advertising networks, and AI-driven digital campaigns designed to shape global opinion about the war in Gaza. Ain't got no money. Where my money, bitch? Where my money, bitch? That's what they're saying. BB's like, he's pulling out the pockets going, I don't know. Where's the money? Be funny if those fuckers that didn't get paid start spilling the beans on what they were told to say and whatnot. So meanwhile, in Florida, judge blocks Florida governor from labeling CARE as a terrorist organization. Yeah, you just can't call anybody a terrorist organization just to satisfy your nefarious needs. A federal judge has decided that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis cannot unilaterally designate the largest Muslim American civil rights organization as a terrorist group because it infringes on First Amendment rights. The temporary injunction on Wednesday blocks DeSantis' executive order signed in December designating the Council on American Islamic Relations, that's CARE, as a terrorist organization and opening up a potential pathway for state prosecutors of anyone believed to be supporting them. The question before this court is whether the governor can, in a non-emergency situation, unilaterally designate one of the largest Muslim civil rights groups in America as a terrorist organization and withhold government benefits from anyone providing material support or resources to the group, Judge Mark Walker wrote in his order. This court finds he cannot. He said his decision is based on DeSantis' coercion of third parties to cut ties with plaintiff because CARE had lost contracts with Florida companies while other advocacy groups severed ties with them. CARE hailed the judge's decision as a victory amid widespread attempts by politicians to undermine our democracy, including attacks on free speech, religious freedom, immigrant rights, and due process. This federal court ruling serves as a reminder that the Constitution still matters, CARE's National Executive Director Nihad Awad said in a statement. CARE's lawsuit was led by the Southern Poverty Law Center, Akil and Valentine, CARE Legal Defense Fund, and the Muslim Legal Fund of America. DeSantis' executive order followed a similar proclamation signed by Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott in November. CARE is a U.S.-based nonprofit organization that advocates for civil liberties and relies on donations to carry out its work. While the executive orders were in effect, CARE was prevented from buying land in Texas and from engaging in government contracts in Florida. Edward Ahmed Mitchell, CARE's deputy director in Washington, D.C., previously told Middle East Eye. Both in Texas and in Florida, the Muslim Brotherhood was also labeled a terrorist organization, despite it having no centralized headquarters or leadership, like Antifa. Unlike in CARE's case, however, there is a terrorism designation at the federal level of Muslim Brotherhood chapters in Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, as ordered by Trumpy. So, again, people having to go to court to get these people to stop these, bullshit, infringements on people's rights. So finally, today, this one's kind of a long video, but I thought this was important. The title is kind of overhyped, but it does manage to get more people aware of what's going on in Israel, right? Let me put that up there. So this is James Lee. I hope I can get this right. So this is James Lee talking about Israel's secret plan for world domination.
I hope everyone had a nice break, and welcome back to the end of the world.
What an epic way to start the class. Welcome back to the end of the world. And it does kind of seem like the world is ending. in a way, right? We have U.S. troops reportedly being told that the war in Iran is intended to bring about biblical end times, or AKA Armageddon, which is a little disconcerting, I have to say, in so many different ways.
So as you know, World War III has started. The United States and Israel have started to attack Iran. And we are now in the 4th day of this war. And we can expect this war to last for many weeks, possibly also for many years. But I promise you that after this war is done, the world will never be the same again.
The world will never be the same again, says Professor Zhang, who has a wonderful, fantastic channel here on YouTube called Predictive History, which we will lean on a lot today to try to figure out why we're even in this war and what the world could look like once all the dust settles. All right, let's take a listen.
America at some point will go to war with Iran, and this will destroy both countries. Okay? Iran will not lose this war, but it won't win this war either, because America is just going to bomb the crap out of Iran. It's going to send Iran back decades. But America will lose this war, but this is important because if America loses this war, it's forced out of the Middle East. And once it's forced out of the Middle East, all its military assets goes to Israel, which creates the Pax Judaica. Does that make sense, guys? That's the plan.
Already 30 seconds in, a lot to unpack there. But the biggest question probably for all of us is, what the heck is Pax Judaica? Let's do a little bit of political science work here. Pax Judaica is a geopolitical concept modeled after historical eras like Pax Romana, describing a period of Middle Eastern stability maintained through Israeli regional hegemony and strategic integration with its Arab neighbors. It posits that a quote-unquote peace, interesting that it is in quotation marks, peace, can be sustained by prioritizing shared economic interests such as high-tech trade and energy corridors and mutual security concerns, specifically the collective containment of Iran. While proponents view this as a pragmatic evolution of the Abraham Accords that moves the region towards a post-oil tech economy, critics argue the framework is inherently fragile because it attempts to manage regional order while largely bypassing the core tensions of the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. So basically, to summarize, a new world order with Israel in control. Got it.
Yeah, does that make sense, guys? That's the plan. Okay, now you have Pax Judaica. And what Pax Judaica will do is start to control the world. Because through chaos and conflict, Pax Judaica can make a lot of money, right? Because Pax Judaica, what's going to happen is that you have these technology companies like Google, they're going to move over to Pax Judaica and build a global surveillance state. You have civil wars, you need AI to control people. If you're going to war with Russia, you need weapons, okay? But you also need financing as well. So you can expect a lot of banks to move to Israel, and it's possible Israel becomes now the global reserve currency because everyone is trading with Israel.
Interesting what he's talking about there. He's talking about global financial control, and he's talking about mass surveillance, which I believe plans are already well underway. Okay, last month, we witnessed the largest ever purchase of an Israeli-founded tech company, a cybersecurity unicorn called Wiz, which Google acquired for a staggering $32 billion. We also have reports that this cybersecurity technology is how we were able to plot and kill Iran's supreme leader. And the great Baron Coleman, who at this point is probably Erica Kirk's biggest nemesis, other than maybe Candace Owens, made an interesting observation around this hacking of traffic cameras, saying, quote, "It makes you wonder about the nationwide traffic camera infrastructure being installed across our own country, and A, the true purpose of it, and B, who has access to it." It's almost like everybody is working in concert. The powers that be, they're all working together to move this plan forward, which I don't pretend to know the totality of this plan quite yet, but just connecting some of the dots. Which, here's another dot, a clip of a US-born venture capitalist who left America for Israel, now telling everybody that they must come straight to Israel.
He said, can you even say shalom in New York anymore? That's what Miriam said this morning.
So just to pick up on that, what I'll tell everybody is skip Miami. If you're leaving New York, just come straight to Israel. The other thing going on right now is IMEC. And we have here in the audience, Daria, wait, raise your hand. Daria Pishavar, her father and I, Shervin, wrote an article together about how there will be peace between Israel and Iran. As President Trump said, they will join the Abraham Accords. And Noor Pahlavi is here. Her Excellency, thank you for joining us. And I think we'll see, by the way, even more regional integration with the 70 million people of Iran and all the other Gulf nations. And as IMEC runs through Israel, the opportunities are literally going to be limitless. And so we will, over the next decade, build this trillion-dollar economy. And you can decide. You can stay here in New York in a declining empire, or you can come to Israel, which is part of the rising middle of the world, which is moving south and east. That's what I encourage you to do. I did it.
You can stay in New York in a declining empire, or you can come to Israel. And in terms of peace with Iran, I wonder what specific tactics the Israelis and the Americans, for that matter, are using to bring Iran into the fold. I don't know. And also back to the point of America being a declining empire. I'm not saying we're not a declining empire. I think we certainly are by many metrics, but the elephant in the room, the big question is, could there be this foreign country that is siphoning the value out of America and strip mining everything? Could that be being done deliberately to weaken the United States?
So you can expect a lot of banks to move to Israel, and it's possible Israel becomes now the global reserve currency because everyone is trading with Israel. If you're Russia, you need to trade with, you need to trade your resources, right? Oil, energy, and grain, okay? So Russia controls a third of the world's carbohydrates. Guess what, guys? Israel controls Africa. So what will happen is that Russia and other countries will sign a trade agreement with Israel, and Israel becomes the center of global trade. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is how Pax Judaica will profit. And remember that Israel has the world's best intelligence agency, the Mossad. And what they can do is go around the world and create as much chaos as possible.
Dude, Professor Jang is a baller, yo. Nothing left to ambiguity. And he is absolutely not wrong, okay? We have, in fact, documented evidence of all of this. This isn't just some crazy conspiracy theory.
Guys, this is Dubai World. It's literally a port, a seaport, which means if you're seeing rockets fly over your head and hitting this port, it did not come from Iran because Iran is there. We won't see any rockets flying over our head unless we're in a ship. The rockets you've seen came from the opposite direction, and everyone witnessed it. No more lies, motherfucker.
Tucker Carlson claims Saudi Arabia and Qatar arrested Mossad agents planning bombings. Let's take a listen here.
It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to hurt these countries. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel. So it's probably not, hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE, and Saudi, and Bahrain, and Oman, and Kuwait.
And just full disclosure, Tucker Carlson did not cite his sources, so we cannot independently verify those claims, but it does make you, at the very least, question the official reports. And given some of the things that we've seen on the ground, it's something that we should absolutely do. And also, it should make you think about the lengths that Israel is willing to go to sow discord, racism, and violence in your own country. Reference this headline of an Israeli man arrested for bomb threats against Canadian and United States Jewish targets. What is going on here? Could Israel be actually willing to sacrifice people of their own religion, the religion they purport to want to protect in order to advance this project of theirs that is evidently seeking global dominance. I don't know the answer, but it is a very dark thought.
So while the world is burning, Israel, Pastor Jacob, is profiting. And that's what the future looks like for the next 10, 20 years. And this will, of course, lead to the rise of the Antichrist.
Speaking of the Antichrist, let's talk about Christianity a little bit. Has the church been infiltrated in service of the creation of Pax Judaica?
You go to any church or government building, the cornerstone is most often visible. It's not usually buried in some dark subterranean corner of the foundation, never to be seen. It is the stone from which the building springs upward. There can be no doubt, however, that the building that became Western political thought and therefore the free world was built on a foundation of Judaism. Without millennia of Jewish faith and struggle, there is no Christianity. The foundation is an often unseen and much smaller component of a building structure, but it is nonetheless completely indispensable. After thousands of years of war and diaspora, Israel represents the enduring presence of Jews in the Holy Land and the protection of that biblical history. Communists and Islamists understand the critical nature of Jews and Judaism to human society. It's fundamental. That's why they attack Judaism, not just Israel, and they want to see it erased from the Middle East. Israel is therefore not just a political jurisdiction. It is a representation of Jewish political, economic, and spiritual power that is related to Christianity and related to Western society and the free world. The jihadists and the Marxists both know that a building unsupported by its foundation will crumble. If Judaism is broken through the erasure of Jews from the Middle East, which is the goal of the Palestinians and the radical Islamists, then Christianity will also become more vulnerable. Spreading generically anti-Israel messaging is anti-Semitic because weakening Israel's right to existence will lead to not only the killing of more Jews, but the erosion of Judeo-Christian principles upon which the Western world is based.
Wow, that is to a T how you use theology to forward some kind of global foreign policy agenda that is deeply, deeply unpopular, which, of course, you can choose to believe that if you wish. I'm not here to tell you what you can or what you should or should not believe, but somehow what he's saying there is that the Christian faith, Christianity as a whole, would be under threat if not for the nation of Israel, and they are using that as justification to basically then ban all criticism of the Israeli government. That, to me, is wild. And by the way, all of this is happening at the same time that they, in this case, this is the IDF, saying that Purim, triumph over an enemy seeking your destruction. Centuries later, we are reliving that same story.
Purim, a story of surviving in the face of an enemy that seeks your destruction. Sound familiar?
Actually, no. I don't know what that is. What is that? The Book of Esther's violent ending when an oppressed group massacres others. The Purim story, as told in the biblical Megillat Esther, offers a picture of a world turned upside down in which a Jewish orphan becomes a Persian queen. The architect of a plan to kill the Jews dies at the hands of his primary target, and an assimilated diaspora community institutes a new holiday for Jews everywhere. Appropriately, the annual celebration of this upside downness involves donning costumes, which allows us to be somebody else for the day, the suspension of certain laws, parodies of everyone and everything, and much drinking, eating, and merriment. At the same time, as it invites lighthearted fun, the Purim story contains within it a dark side in which the oppressed seem to become the oppressor. Megillat Esther ends with the Jews carrying out a bloody battle in which more than 75,000 people lose their lives and in which fear of death prompts countless others to feign Jewishness. Is that the plan for Iran? Is just mass murder and genocide? And if that is the case, could they really be just that brazen about it? Just tweeting out, hey guys, this is what we're doing and you better get on board or else.
Look, there are massive divisions over what we've done here, and people are going to change their minds over the coming days and weeks, one way or the other. But my own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country.
Megyn Kelly says no one should have to die for a foreign country. But unfortunately, here we are. We are heartbroken to learn that Declan Coady, a well-loved and highly dedicated Drake University student studying information systems, cybersecurity, and computer science, was confirmed to be among the 6 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait on Sunday. He has bravely served in the U.S. Army Reserve since 2023 as an information technology specialist and had an incredibly bright future ahead of him in moments like these. So we must all come together to show much-needed love and compassion for the Coady family and this incredibly difficult time. Incredibly sad and incredibly unfortunate, totally avoidable in my opinion. And according to President Trump, he's one of 6 right now, but there could be more people who will sacrifice their lives on behalf of, I don't know, a war. I think we can call it a war. And you could say that this war is being fought not just for a foreign country, but also this war would perhaps lead to a complete realignment of the world order, with the country we are fighting this war on behalf of becoming the host nation that will reign supreme, and with us being the subservient client state. That, of course, is all theoretical for now, but perhaps where we are headed. That is it for me today. Once again, I appreciate you for coming on this journey with me to learn the truth about what is really going on out there in the world. A big thank you to Professor Zhang and the work that he does. And hopefully we together are going to be able to untangle the web, so to speak, before it swallows us whole. And despite maybe the bleakness of where we're at, I remain optimistic. Let me know where you are at with all of this in the comment section below. If you want to support my journalism, you can become a member by going into my website, 5149jameslee.com. You can also pick yourself up some merch there. But if you're not able to, no worries at all. Just take a second to like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family so we can expand our community. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be the first to know when my next video drops. As always, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.
说真的，我作为一个中国人，我的认知我几乎无法同情以色列人，包括在现在。 打仗了，防空洞只能他们以色列人进去，其他国家的人不行。哇靠！我作为一个中国人，我的认知，我真的无法同情他们和理解他们在现在的行为。
I know that video was a little bit long, but it was chock full of information I think everybody needed to be aware of too, right? The religious aspects of this, right? The the book of Revelation, how the Christians are wanting Jesus to come back, and in order to do that, certain things have to happen in a certain order, I believe, right? You have to rebuild the Temple Mount. I think that's part of it. There's the 2 red calves. There's the 2, I think it's the 2 prophets. There's the Antichrist. I mean, I think what Israel's doing is preying upon evangelicals and their fondness for telling stories that oh yeah, this is definitely the right thing to do. You were totally not doing it for our own nefarious reasons. This is to bring back Jesus, even though they can't stand Jesus. That's right, folks. The Zionists not big fans of JC and the Sunshine Band. So that's your propaganda watch for this week. Want to remind you about our mutual aid going on for our friends. It's not just them. There's other people too in the space that could use your help. And like I said, if you know of anybody that has like a GoFundMe or some sort of mutual aid request that's going on, if you could send it to extrabulla@gmail.com. Let me know. I'll put you in here as well to shout out our folks that need the help. Of course, Justice for Aspen. She's continuing to fight her legal battles down in Georgia. If you can help her out with that, we appreciate it. All these links are down below in the description if you want to go there and donate, or if you want to share out the links. Either way, that's fine too. Our buddy Chanda, dealing with cancer still, of course. And any kind of medical treatment like that, especially cancer, is not inexpensive at all. So if you can help her out, we appreciate it. Our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his sister-in-law Natalia is fighting being deported. even though there's no reason why she should be deported. She's in this country legally. Got into some business with ICE and their bullshit. So if you could help out, we appreciate it. Our friends NoliDee and Kevin from Black Bear News both lost their homes during fires. If you could help them out, again, their links are down below. If you can make a donation, that's great. If not, if you share out the links, that works fine and dandy too. Yeah, so also a reminder tonight, more sillies, kind of get your mind off things for a couple hours as the secret show and the chickens and cats and all kinds of people roll in for that. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rockfin and the Book of Faces. Also, I don't know if you know this or not. Some of you may be watching this on Substack. We are now trying to stream on Substack for you. If you're into that sort of thing. Some people don't like watching us on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook. So we have another option for you. If you want to join our Substack, it's ExtraBulla.substack.com. Basically, we'll get to, you can watch the news live, and then afterwards we'll have links to all the news items that we had in the program for you to read yourself. In case you don't trust Whitey, which in these days and times is probably a good idea. But I'm trying to help. That's all. No scams. Just trying to help you out if I can do that. So finally, folks, you remember the Ace Ventura sequel where Jim Carrey crawls out of a fake rhinoceros's butt. Well, guess what? That ass is up for sale. Wait, what? Butt birth rhino from Ace Ventura sequel up for auction. So yes, you can sit inside this luxury 1996 or whatever it was. Ace Ventura sequel rhinoceros. You climb in right there, and then you could crawl out the pooper in there if you want. So an auction house specializing in props from movies and TV series is offering a screen-matched butt birth rhinoceros from Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. Prop Store Auction said the rhino was used for exterior shots in the 1995 comedy when Ace Ventura, played by Jim Carrey, was using the mechanical animal to spy on a suspect. An infamous scene features Carrey squeezing out from the rear end of the rhino when his cooling fan breaks down, earning the prop the nickname of the butt birth rhino. I know, we hit you with the big stories last, Rondo. That's what the most important stories you have to wait for. Distinctive patterning on the bolts, as well as the placement of holes drilled into the top of the door hatch on this rhino's side. Screen match to when Ace climbed out of the rhino's butt, though this rhino's neck and legs appear slightly differently today as a result of sympathetic restoration and repainting conducted after filming, the auction house said. Probably some love and care, maybe some Vaseline, maybe a little cuddling. Bidding on the prop, which was previously displayed at Planet Hollywood, had reached $5,500 as of early afternoon yesterday. The auction house said it is expected to fetch a top price of $8,000. $8,000. Bidding closes March 25th. So there's still time for you to get that ass. You all about that ass. You can get it for $8,000, maybe, or maybe less. It's kind of a random thing. A rhino from a sequel. Okay, sure. But you could crawl in it and pretend like you're any politician and have that feeling of having your head stuck up your own ass, literally. So if you want that feeling, you should probably enjoy that. Again, tonight, Secret Show, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific time. YouTube, Rumble, Book of Faces. If you're watching, I know, right? Rhino. Rhino has something to do with the nose. It doesn't have anything to do with the ass, though. You could be an ass-no. I don't know. Probably not. Secret show tonight. I'll be back again with Laine P on Wednesday morning at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube. Rockfin, Rumble, not Rockfin. Why did I say Rockfin? YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, and also on our Substack, so the Undercurrent, the number 4, the letter U, substack.com. So you can watch shows there, and of course get show notes, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess that's going to be it. If you're watching wherever, appreciate you. I'll be back again with this show next week at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack, if that's working. Substack, kind of hit or miss. So if you're on there a good bit, that's great. If you could subscribe to our Substack, ExtraBulla.substack.com, that'd be cool. And then you'll get notices when we go live on there and stuff. So always trying to give you options in this day and age. So there is no option now. I must leave. That is the end of our show for today. I want to thank everybody on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and on Substack for hanging out, having a good time, having a good time with all this bullshit news. That's pretty tough bill to fill, but we try to give you honest commentary when it's necessary. I think when the commentary is necessary, honesty is always necessary. But yeah, come see us tonight, and we'll have some funsies tonight at around 11 p.m. Eastern. So anyway, take care, guys. Love each and every one of you. See you when I see you. Peace.
This is City Alpha 5.
Soon.